All right, Wesley Morris is in town, my old Grantland colleague who is now at the New York Times. And we taped the whole podcast that was on the BS podcast earlier in the week. Wanted to talk about one thing, sports related.
Yeah.
To throw on at the end of this, because some stuff happened and you and I were talking off podcast about it, but I did want to talk about it on podcast. Two things that happened pretty close to each other.
Mm-hmm. Weirdly close to each other.
Yeah. The first one was Rajon Rondo and Bill Kennedy.
Yes.
And then the second one was Odell Beckham, which three people that you might not think have a lot in common, and they might not. But the Rondo Bill Kennedy thing happens, bunch of gay slurs. The league suspends him a few days after.
Yes.
For language abusive to a referee or something. Then Bill Kennedy comes out, says, I'm gay.
Right.
Now it turns out one of the reasons he did that was because of this whole incident, but it wasn't a gay bashing, but Rondo didn't know, but he might not have. But so it's this whole context of this whole incident that happens where you have to go into it and you say either Rondo knew or Rondo didn't know. And if Rondo knew and he berated this guy in a basketball court with 15,000 people there and repeatedly called him the F-bomb, this is the exact same situation as Isaiah Washington and T.R. Knight in Grey's Anatomy in front of a crew of 50 people. And Isaiah Washington basically never acted again and was blackballed in Hollywood and had to go counseling and all this stuff.
Right.
This happens with Rondo. He's suspended a game. The catch is, did he know, did he not know? But
it doesn't matter.
It's
right?
8 years later.
Right.
You would think it would actually be worse for Rondo, and it wasn't. So why?
Well, there are gay people in Hollywood, for one thing. I mean, you don't see a lot of them in front of the camera, but I mean, they're there.
Yep.
And the thing about Kennedy, I mean, Kennedy, as far as I understand, was not in the closet. I mean, he was an openly gay person, but he wasn't openly gay to everybody. I mean, he was out in the way that he needed to be out.
Right.
And I think that Hollywood is a somewhat similar situation. And I think that also the difference is that it was Rajon Rondo versus, I'm trying
Isaiah
to
Washington.
If God forbid, if Denzel Washington went on a tirade like that on the set of some movie against, I don't know who.
That's a bigger deal.
It's a bigger deal, but he continues to work.
He did it in Philadelphia in the grocery store, but that was
for a movie, and it was in the service of what I think is his best performance. By the way,
oh
yes,
okay.
We can talk about that later. But I
love Philadelphia.
That's his best performance.
That was during the Jonathan Demme run of every scene I shoot, my camera is just right in the face of the person.
Yes.
And then I cut to another shot of the other person they're talking to, and the camera's right in their face. It actually worked for like 3 movies.
People got tired of that device, and I think the same thing was true with Spike Lee in the dolly shot, which he'll always use. But anyway, I think that it's different if someone like in Hollywood, if someone like Denzel does it. I also think that maybe it's not different because Mel Gibson. I mean, I don't know if Mel Gibson were at the height of if he had gone on that rant during at the height of his power, at the height of his, during the Lethal Weapon days or something.
Yeah.
I wonder what the effect on his career, I wonder how that would have affected his career. But at the point at which he had done it in, 2004 or 5 or 6 or whenever that rant was, I think he was sort of past his prime anyway. And so it was a lot easier to discard him.
Are you talking about Rondo?
And I'm talking about Mel Gibson.
No, I was kidding.
Oh, wow. Ding, ding,
Come
ding.
on.
But I think that, the league is, so here's the other thing. I mean, I think there's a lot of institutionalized homophobia in sports generally, and with respect to different leagues, no matter what you say or do about publicly combating homophobia. And I think Adam Silver has done a pretty good job in terms of coming down in these incidents in delivering some sort of fair and just punishment. I think that, as we've kind of talked about, I mean, he was in a bit of a tricky situation with the Bill Kennedy thing because
it was more than tricky, because if he suspended Rondo based on Bill Kennedy being gay, everybody would have
been like, why is the suspension so serious? Right. But I mean, this is, I know that this is sort of parsing a little bit, but I think that outing is tricky because he was out, right?
Just nobody had said.
It's just like it was his business.
I knew he was gay.
It's the classic thing where this is where we are with sexuality now. Yeah. It's not ask, don't tell. If you ask me, I'll tell you, but I'm not going to tell you because I have to. He didn't have to say anything about his sexuality. What difference does it make? And so this is the point at which Rondo's relationship to his knowledge of Kennedy's sexuality somewhat does matter, correct? Like, it wasn't. I can't say what Rondo did or didn't know, but I would say contextually, it's likely that people in the league kind of know they know who's gay.
Well, especially with the Celtics, because he had a whole incident with Doc Rivers and Kennedy, and
but that's
on
contested,
that team.
Right? I mean, that's still in dispute, is it not? I mean, Doc Rivers himself has disputed it.
What else is he going to do?
Well, oh, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's true.
I just knew from like 2009 on. That was always the story I heard. And if I knew it living in Los Angeles, 3,000 miles away, right. I'm going to guess that there's a really good chance Rondo knew being on that team.
That's fair. I also would say that one of the problems is that the infrastructure of these sports leagues reinforces a kind of a homophobia where there's a lot of glass closets. There's a lot of people who don't feel comfortable being as openly gay as like I was at Grantland, for instance, or like Emin. Exactly. I chose to tell you, but it's my business. It's my business to share with
your choice.
Other people. I mean, in the same way that like I shouldn't, but I'm also not like choosing to disclose to you. I've never said to you, Bill, I'm gay. Like, it just isn't something. That's not how coming out really works now.
Unless it's on MTV.
Right. But then we're going to MTV. And
that's every Real World season.
Having a show in which but the thing about the Real World was nobody ever came out on the Real World. They all got there gay.
Well, no, that's not technically true because the part of the first episode, there were a bunch of beats in the first episode. One of which
with Norman?
No, just any season. It was always about 2/3 in. Whoever the gay person was had to pull somebody and be like, hey, man, I got to tell you something. They always had that moment in there.
Yes, but he was gay to himself.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like before he got to this show, he was gay.
Right.
I think that the thing about the way the closet works in sports now, and in the way it works, the way coming out or being out or having a sexual identity works is it's not a public thing anymore. I think people are now expecting there to be some big press conference where some big athlete just says, hey, all, I'm gay. I don't think that's ever really going to happen because, first of all, it's not necessary. I think the thing that is more important is unless this person is willing to be, and it has to be like a huge star, and it has to be somebody who is willing to sort of spend a significant portion of his or her life talking about this and only this.
Or it could go the other way, and it could be a situation like almost like what happened with Rodman. Although he was not gay, but he was
interesting.
He was experimenting.
Right?
He didn't care what people thought.
Right.
He just went and did his thing, and he was flamboyant and just kind of a personality. And it's just he didn't care. There was a mystery to him. But maybe that's how this would go with somebody.
But Rodman was intimidating for that reason. What I'm talking about is the alternative to a person holding a press conference and saying, hello, world, I'm a homosexual. The alternative to that is you are living your life the way you normally would live it. You go to practice, you go to the games, you do a good job, and you go on with the rest of your business for the rest of the day or the week or the month of the year. Your teammates know your situation. Whether or not they like it that's their problem. And obviously, and this brings us kind of to Odell Beckham, they can make it your problem. Do you know what I mean? They can make your life difficult whether or not you're gay, just to be suspected of or to be accused of it is an additional psychological burden. And I understand. I mean, I think for a while the question was, why don't these athletes come out? Like, why aren't they coming out? The reason is it sucks.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being in a place where like it only takes one guy to make your life a living hell? I mean, and hopefully what the alternative to that guy making your life a living hell is some other guy is like, shut up, man. Respect this guy's situation. Like, we don't care. He does a good job on the field, on the court, wherever. I think like the thing that Michael Sam talked about when he came out, which was that the entire team knew about his sexuality, and they the claim was that they supported him.
Yeah. I
think that the idea that if someone came out, and it's so funny because I'm tempted to like say all these names, but like if a person came out, like what kind of support would that person be guaranteed to have if they came out in a way more than they already are out? You know, I mean, there are people on teams where the teammates presumably know the person is gay and they respect it, but I don't think the teams from the locker rooms to the front offices want to deal with the sort of national spectacle that comes to their team. This is what was so interesting to me about the idea that there was going to be this like group coming out, like a bunch of guys were going to come out at the same time.
2 Christmases ago, yeah.
I mean, it does sort of diffuse the attention. You know, like it makes it more. It like what I'm saying. It distributes the attention, not diffuses it. Wait a
second though. Can we go back to the Women's World Cup when Abby Wambach kissed her wife?
Right
after the game that like 28 million people watched. Nobody gave a shit.
It's women though. Like women aren't homophobic in the way that men are homophobic. Like so, the structure, the institutional structure of the male sports world. It's just much more comfortable with homophobia than it is with homosexuality.
Well, remember 30 years ago when Martina was winning Wimbledons and they would cut to like whoever her girlfriend was in the box and the announcer would be like, there's her good friend, Vanessa. They're very, very good friends. And she's very happy to have. But now they're a little more open. But with the men, though, like with Beckham, it's clear that there was some form of gay bashing with Beckham, who's might be gay, might not be.
Some form. Yeah. It was like, it was bad
at one point.
It was crazy.
Trying to get in his head either because he's gay or because they're just trying to get in his head by calling him gay.
Well, because
one or the other.
Because I mean, I think like setting aside his actual sexual orientation, I mean, there were videos and rumors. And I don't know.
Videos of him dancing. Who knows? But it might be like a Rodman thing. He might just be.
Well, either way, like Rodman didn't get treated like that.
No.
You know, and the thing that offends me with the Beckham situation is the league didn't do anything.
Well, of course not.
Well, obviously, yes. But I mean, look, you have a whole team or like enough of a team saying, gay slurs to one guy. Like,
and there was a menacing aspect to it.
The whole energy, the energy of the whole game was weird.
But here's the thing, though, and this is why I want to bring this up. These are 2 incidents. The Beckham thing was pretty self-contained to New York media. It was a football story a little bit in a mainstream way, and then in the gay blog community, like the guy in Out wrote a big piece about it, Sid Ziegler.
Right.
So that was there, but it wasn't really, and then it kind of came and went. Rondo-Kennedy came and went. We're in the outrage society where everybody gets, this is the kind of thing people seize onto and go crazy about until we get justice. And it didn't happen here, which I thought was strange.
I will say 2 things about that. I won't forget that Rondo did that.
I won't either.
And
I can't believe he did that.
I don't know what, I don't think the people who know Rondo did that and have a problem with Rondo's having done it will forget that it happened. I think I personally, I mean, I feel like everybody's got a really tortured relationship with the NFL. I know you do.
Yes.
I feel like this for me further complicates any pleasure I get out of watching football.
It's add this to the list of 17 other things.
If the Panthers go to the Super Bowl, I don't know how it's going to, I mean, whatever, I'll watch the Super Bowl, obviously, but it's just, it just makes it a little bit less fun knowing that you have proof that people don't like an aspect of you.
Yeah.
And that they think that it's okay to use that to get in your head. And look, there's a lot of smack talk. There's a lot of, sort of disrespectful play in sports and that sort of thing. But there's a limit. There's a limit. Like even like certain kinds of your mama cracks. Like you can't take that but so seriously. But what we're talking about now,
if you call somebody an MFer, mean, that's like, that's when you really break down that word, that's not a nice word.
But nobody, it takes an enlightened person with a very thin skin to let that bother you.
True.
But calling somebody an MFer faggot, do you know what I mean? Like a motherfucking faggot, that's a different thing.
Right.
And to like keep saying it and to like have an entire, like have a team sort of campain.
Like this is how we're getting in this guy's head.
Right. Like to wage an entire campaign against your psychology for a game. And the thing that bugs me by that whole, offends me is that there was only one person who got punished for that incident.
Right.
And the Giants didn't say anything. I mean, at least as far as I know, the Giants said nothing about the conduct of the Panthers in that game.
Yeah.
And the league said nothing about the Panthers' conduct.
It's hard to believe the 70-year-old Giants coach didn't.
But what he said instead was, it's all fine. It's okay. Don't worry. It's good.
So it's almost like real life.
Right. I mean,
the 7-year-old dad, like, no, he's fine. He's fine. He's between girlfriends.
My big manly son is totally fine. Don't you worry about that.
He's fine.
Yeah. Rihanna. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It just, it really bothers me. I don't know.
So we took a step back from the whole Jason Collins, Michael Sam. Hey, we're making some momentum. And it really feels like we took a step back in the end of 2015.
Bill, it's all lip service.
Yeah.
It's all lip service at this point. I feel like I am not one of the people who needs a gay athlete to come out and say, to even like sort of acknowledge his gayness in a public way, because they're in the league. Yeah. Like, we know that.
It's a really tough decision to make.
It's a hard decision. Like, you're giving everything up. This is the thing that moved me about Bill Kennedy.
Yeah.
And his not even coming out, but his just being like, dude, I've always been gay.
Yeah.
Like, shocker. It was basically what that statement was. But what he also said was, listen, this is not easy. And every athlete of any gender should have the freedom to be who they are and not be persecuted for it by their teammates, peers, bosses, coworkers, whatever. And I think that goes for the entire sports apparatus. Whether you sit in an office or like you sell hot dogs or whatever, you should be able to be the person you are and not be shamed for it. Especially in a context where it doesn't even matter. Like, the thing about Kennedy to me that's so moving is like, we shouldn't even know who Bill Kennedy is.
Right.
We shouldn't know at all. It's how he does his job, is anonymously, pretty much. Although he is a pretty spectacular to watch referee. I just feel like he really is sort of taking a hit. And
I didn't know how to follow that comment up, so I just kind of stared at you.
What about Kennedy?
Where you were saying spectacular to watch referee, and I'm like, because...
Oh, I like his referee
demeanor,
style.
Or you like his style?
His style as a referee is noticeable.
Yes, I would agree.
You do notice that. I'm glad you asked for a follow-up if you were bothered by that.
Well, I've always... No, I wasn't bothered.
I mean, like, if you noticed it, I'd thank you for asking.
I always noticed him because he was ripped and his shirts never quite fit.
Yes,
and
he's
he
also
was always...
very fit.
He's... Normally the refs are either old guys or they're a little doughy, or there's a couple in shape ones, and he's the one that's like, wow, that guy must go home and just power lift.
Right. He and Ed Hochuli.
He was the Ed Hochuli of the NBA.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a perennially tough situation for me, because so many things would have to change in order for it to be worth it for a guy. Or, I mean, basically we're talking about men at this point.
Well, we're in the same spot that we're in a couple years ago. When it happens, it's going to be because it wasn't the person's choice.
Right.
I think is where we're headed.
But
it'll be a big star, but it will happen for a reason that wasn't up to him.
But what's interesting to me is there are so many almosts out there, basically.
Yeah.
And I feel like not only in the athlete's interest, it's in the sport, it's in the team's interest and in the respective league's interest to make these things go away however they can.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've never heard of a story of a relationship fixer, although coming to USA this fall, Rosario Dawson is like the beard, like she's the woman who procures the girlfriends for these guys on these teams.
Yeah.
So they don't seem gay. This is the missed opportunity on Ballers, by the way.
Is that a real show?
It should be. You and Sal do that thing, right?
That's on Hulu?
Rosario Dawson is the beard.
Omar Epps is back.
Right.
He's aging quarterback.
Should he come out of the closet?
He's 38. What does he have to lose?
Right. Not before he gets his beard.
The beard.
Right. And it'd be like a beard of the week. You get some very famous actress like Jennifer Lawrence makes an appearance as a beard on the show. I mean, it could really...
Entourage with, yeah.
Right. I mean...
Would you call it growing a beard?
Growing a beard. I don't know.
Finding a beard? Building a beard?
Some podcast listener is going to have I think the beard. Beards. A little weird. Nah, the beard. I think you had it right.
Yeah, the beard.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's an agency run by the league. We'll just say the NFL. The NFL's got like the Olivia Pope of, sports scandals.
I got scared when you started saying that name.
Why? Olivia Pope?
I didn't know where you were going.
No, they've got the Olivia Pope of sports scandals.
Yeah. Okay.
And they basically, her job is to find women for these men who are on the verge of being outed.
This feels like a USA show.
I just said USA. I think you're right. It does feel like a USA show. Right. But Ballers.
Everything is light and happy, and it's set in Miami.
Right.
There's a lot of scenes of people walking in the beach being like, guys, Out Magazine said they're going to write this. There's a lot of scenes like that, but
we got to get...
There's water.
Kerry Washington. We got to get Rosario Dawson on the phone right now. And she comes in and is like, what's the problem?
I think because Rosario's involved, we could get Chris Rock to EP because they're dating. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
They're dating.
How could I not have known that?
You didn't know Chris Rock and Rosario Dawson were dating?
No. They've never, no,
they're out.
Not to be that person.
They came out as a couple.
I've never seen them out together. I've seen them out
we have to
without
go,
each other.
I have to leave.
All right, let's go.
All right. Thanks, Wesley Morris. That was fun.
Thank you. That was fun.
Thanks to HBO Now for sponsoring today's podcast. You don't need cable or satellite.